But Biden is trying to tie the hands of not just the incoming president, Donald Trump, but also basically tie the hands of the American economy because, he hasn't done enough damage already. 2 weeks from now, Joe Biden will be gone. The inauguration will take place. Actually, literally 2 weeks from right now is when Donald Trump will be giving his inaugural speech on Capitol Hill. And in the final days of the Biden administration, he's doing whatever he can to not only embrace the most radical left-wing ideas, programs, and policies that any president has, including Barack Obama, but he's also doing whatever he can to piss Americans off. It's bad enough that he gave the Presidential Citizen Award to Liz Cheney last week for holding a fraudulent kangaroo committee on January 6th, where apparently she tampered with witnesses and her cohort, the chairman, Benny Thompson. Sorry, Benny, Benny Thompson. Apparently, allegedly destroyed evidence of the committee's findings. Yeah, not only has he done that, but then he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to that evil, maniacal George Soros, who has blood on his hands for funding all of these district attorneys around America who look the other way in major cities and don't prosecute hardened criminals, leaving them on the street to continue to rape and molest and murder again and again. And then Hillary Clinton, who's pretty much just as evil, and actually the most evil of them all, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Did you see that? Bill Nye the Science Guy got a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Why? Because he wears a bow tie and promotes abortion and lies about climate change, and he doesn't even have a science PhD. He has a Bachelor of Arts. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but he's not a science guy. He's an actor who wears a tie and reads a teleprompter. He got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I want one now. I want one now. Anyway, not only is Joe Biden doing all of those things, but Joe Biden, in the final days of his campaign, has now tried to execute an executive order that would ban offshore oil drilling. Understand something. This is a major component to Donald Trump's plan to lower the cost of living and lower inflation. He has a robust domestic oil and gas drilling and exploration policy, a program that he can implement on day one by reversing Joe Biden's executive orders from 4 years ago. The moment that happens, because the oil and gas market is actually traded on the commodities, it's speculative, that will immediately bring the cost of barrels of oil down, which will immediately have an effect at the gas pump, which will immediately bring down the cost of delivering products and services and people in this country, which means costs of goods will go down. Literally on day one, by lowering the cost of energy, by increasing domestic oil and gas exploration, Donald Trump can have an effect on inflation and the cost of living. And Joe Biden is trying to block him from doing that in perpetuity. Well, President Trump appeared on our colleague Hugh Hewitt's radio and Salem News Channel program. It's part of our parent company here at Town Hall. And he told Hugh that he plans to reverse this immediately.
Got to get things done. We don't get them done. I see it just came over that Biden has banned all oil and gas drilling across 625 million acres of U.S. coastal territory. It's ridiculous. I'll unban it immediately. I will unban it. I have the right to unban it immediately. What's he doing? Why is he doing it? You know, we have something that nobody else has. I mean, nobody has to the extent we have it, and it'll be more by the time we finish because I'll be able to expand. You know, we're going to expand our country, and it'll be more. We have oil and gas, and whether you manufacture widgets or gadgets or whatever you happen to be doing, some countries have to work very hard to do that. We do too, and we will. But we have oil and gas at a level that nobody else has, and we're going to take advantage of it. And when I see somebody saying he's going to ban 625 million acres, he doesn't know what that is. He doesn't even know what 625 million acres would look like. And we can't let that happen to our country. It's really our greatest economic asset. and we're not going to let that happen to our country.
All right, so he says he's going to unban it immediately. He also sounds like he's got a cold, doesn't he? He sounds a little congested. I hope that clears up by the time of the inauguration 2 weeks from today. Now, he says he'll unban it immediately. Fox News, Capitol Hill, excuse me, White House reporter Jackie Heinrich says that might not be so easy. She says this may not be immediately possible. Biden took action under the 1953 Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act. By the way, 1953, I believe, was Joe Biden's 5th term in the U.S. Senate. I could have my math wrong there. The Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act, which does not provide authority for presidents to reverse it. Trump will likely have to work to undo Biden's ban through Congress or the courts. Certain states have banned offshore drilling if they want to. Although even California has grandfathered in offshore drilling. They haven't allowed for new offshore drilling. But what I'm saying is that offshore drilling is something that has been happening in America for decades now. It's a great source of the natural oil that we have. We haven't had any major, even minor oil spill problem since, well, I guess in Alaska, we had the Exxon Valdez issue. And I guess in the Gulf of Mexico, we had the BP thing, but that actually was the fault of the Obama administration and the incompetence that they had in their regulatory commission. But the point is, even remember the BP Gulf of Mexico well that just kept pumping oil into the Gulf? They said it would be devastating and the Gulf would never recover and it would be 100 years. No, it's amazing how the planet cleans itself. I'm not saying that it's a good thing to have oil spilled in America. What I'm saying is that the fears that we constantly hear about offshore drilling never actually materialize. And he's doing this on his way out the door. He didn't do it when he first came into office, did he? In fact, Barack Obama was in office for 8 years, and he was just as beholden to the environmental wackos as Joe Biden is. But even he didn't do this. But Biden is trying to tie the hands of not just the incoming president, Donald Trump, but also basically tie the hands of the American economy because, he hasn't done enough damage already. Well, later on Fox News Channel, Daniel Turner, Power the Future, he's a great spokesperson for increased oil and gas exploration here in America because we have untapped resources that we should be able to dominate the world. We could be Saudi Arabia right here. All those great hotels they built over in the desert, right? That could be us right now with all that money flowing into us, and then we're not beholden to maniacs. Look at the countries that have a ton of oil, Iran, Venezuela, Iraq, right? Saudi Arabia, Qatar. These countries, we don't want to be beholden to them. Russia, right? They've got a ton of oil there. We don't want to be beholden to them. We get most of our oil from? You talk about lunatic authoritarian dictatorships. Canada has a ton of oil. We don't want to. I'm sorry, I did it again. Justin Trudeau's on his way out. It's fine. We love Canada again. Canada's great. The point is, Daniel Turner is a huge advocate for American exploration and drilling. He appeared on Fox News. He seems to have a working knowledge of how this executive order was executed and what, if anything, Donald Trump can do to reverse it. Let's take a look at it. It's a very important conversation.
And announcing an executive order that permanently bans new offshore drilling along most of the U.S. coastline. The executive order is drafted in a way that would make it harder for incoming President Trump to reverse. Daniel Turner, founder and executive director of energy advocacy organization Power the Future, joins me now. What's the scope and scale of this executive order that Biden is putting forward?
Yeah, this is pretty big, considering that about 15% of our oil and gas comes from offshore. That's going to make it really hard to get this drill, baby, drill agenda, which President Trump has pushed. And the way it's crafted, as you mentioned, it's going to be really hard to overturn. I'm sure Trump will, but then it will immediately get thrown into the courts. And Biden has appointed 250 or so judges. And so it will be in a favorable court. And this will give environmental groups a lot of fodder to raise money and to do their activism.
Countries around the world are going in the opposite direction. Let's just put up a map here for everybody to see. These are the countries, Saudi, United Kingdom, Norway, and Brazil, for example, who are expanding their offshore drilling. Why would we decide to pull back?
Well, and that's the crazy thing. China is operating in the Gulf of Mexico. The world's largest offshore oil platform is operated by China in the Gulf of Mexico. It's in international waters. Russia and Norway are operating in the Arctic. And so Joe Biden is saying to Alaskans, you can't operate in the Arctic. He's saying to Texans and Louisianans, you can't operate in the Gulf. But in this case, Russia and China, our enemies are. They are tapping into oil and gas reserves that are basically in America's back pocket. So it's insanity. It really is. And you have to question if anyone listening thinks, well, this is to protect the earth. If this were really about the environment, why did it take 4 years, right? We saw during COVID when Biden administration thought they had the solution, you had to take it, regardless of whether or not you wanted the mask or the vaccine. It was obligatory. If this was really medicine to cure the planet, why did it take the administration 4 years to implement it? So this is just pure politics at its worst.
Okay, so you said that President Trump will try to reverse. It'll end up in the courts, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so we'll have that situation. But is there anything that Congress can do that would leapfrog that?
There is, and this is the power of the Article 1, right? And the power of the legislature. And this is where newly elected senators like Senator McCormick from Pennsylvania, right? And Senator Sheehy from Montana, they ran on these platforms that the incumbent Democrats were punishing oil and gas. They were not standing up to Biden. Well, this is a great opportunity for these newly elected senators to say to their constituents who work in these industries, I am here to fight for you. It's a great chance also for senators from Gulf states, from Alaska, Senator Murkowski, Senator Sullivan, newly elected Congressman Begich from Alaska. This is for them to stand up and say, we are putting our industry and our constituents first because we need the jobs, we need the revenue.
Well, we'll see if they do that. Daniel Turner, thanks for joining us today. Enjoy the snow down there in Virginia.
Yeah, nobody's enjoying the snow down here. All right, listen. Let's just be clear on what's going on here. Joe Biden knows full well, and so does his team. They know that the second Trump comes in and he makes that reversal, like I just said, so that we can get the Keystone Pipeline back. We can resume, I should say, after 4 years off, domestic oil and gas exploration and drilling, that immediately the prices at the gas station will go down, but also prices on the shelves, grocery shelves. Everyone says, what can you do to bring down the prices of goods and eggs and milk, right away? The answer is energy. Energy. Everything costs energy to produce. And if you can reduce the cost of energy or to transport, if you can reduce the cost of energy immediately, you will bring down the cost of things. Biden knows that. His team knows that. They're not stupid, okay? They just didn't care. They know you hate the high prices. They don't care. They know they're responsible for the high prices in many respects because of their policies. They don't care. And what the Biden team fears the most is that immediately Donald Trump can expose that. He can expose just by doing that. And so he's trying to sabotage Trump. He's trying to get in the way of Trump and prevent him from happening. As Daniel Turner just said, if this was really about saving the planet, why in the hell did you wait until the last 2 weeks you're in office to do it? You want to save the planet, do it on day one. But they knew, number one, that they would be penalized in the midterms on election day and when he was running for re-election. And number two, he knew that it would even further exacerbate the inflation and the cost of products and services in this country. So this is to sabotage Donald Trump. It's to try to tie his hands from being able to actually do something proactive and positive to fix the economy. Now, here's how it's going to get resolved. And they sort of touched on it there, but I just want to give you a little bit more of a deep dive. We talked about this last week. It's called reconciliation. Keep remembering that word. Reconciliation is a congressional legislative budgetary process. When you move into reconciliation for spending and tax bills between the House and the Senate, the reconciliation process only requires a bare majority of votes in both chambers, not the 60 votes in the Senate to end a filibuster. And that's the way you can get a lot of stuff done. Do you remember in December of 2017, the big Trump tax cuts that got through in the House and the Senate with just a handful of votes? There was a lot in that package. That was a reconciliation bill. That's the Trump tax cuts that are about to expire at the end of 2025. Look for them to rejuvenate in the reconciliation bill that Jason Smith, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, is going to start engineering in the House of Representatives. People forget there's a lot of stuff that you can put into a reconciliation bill if you can make the case that it has to do with the budget. All right. That's the key. It has to have something to do with spending and the budget. Check this out. You ready? In 2017, in that reconciliation bill that they passed with the Trump tax cuts, there was also a provision in there to allow oil drilling in the Alaskan refuge, the wilderness in Alaska that had been banned for decades. And there had been Republican presidents who had said, we're going to continue, we're going to get that drilling back, we're going to get that drilling back, but they never did. Trump is the one who was able to finally get it, to drill in the Alaskan National Reserves, the protected lands up there. They were able to do that because they made the case that drilling for domestic oil has a direct effect on the American budget because of fees and various levies that the government can put on the companies that end up drilling that oil, and various, they can rationalize it and they can say, no, this has to do with the budget. And they were able to get it through. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Write it down. Larry O'Connor predicted it on the 6th day of January. We will resume offshore drilling. We don't have to go through trying to reverse in the courts what Biden just cynically did. This will get fixed in reconciliation. And the sooner that reconciliation bill gets crafted and passed, the better. That's how it's going to end. Increased tariffs on our trade partners are in the news. Tax cuts in the news. Congress about to address that in a reconciliation package. Regulation changes. Trump wants to hit those on day one. Learn why gold is a viable diversification tactic now more than ever. Birch Gold, the only company I endorse, they're now releasing the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. Get your free copy along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold. Just text my name, Larry, to the number 989898. That's so easy to remember. It's like they reserved it just for me. 989898. Text my name, Larry. The national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt continue to increase. Gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar. Birch Gold, still the company I recommend to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Not a penny out of your pocket. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Get your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. No obligation, just information. Text Larry to 989898. Why don't you do that today? Do it right now. Do it now. Do it now.